obviously pretty hard loss last week, and the Northern Bombers this week. That doesn't look like it's getting any easier. I said, how do you prepare for a team like that?
You prepare like you do any other week, like with a Monday. You know, there's a couple of us in there reviewing the edits of our game and also the Northern Bombers game. So every week, like every coach in the room, you spend many hours looking at the opposition, looking at what we can do, and you know, we just go up there. It's another massive challenge, but where we're at as a group at the moment, we actually look forward to it.
How do you stop a player like Cox, could you?
That's a good question. If I knew, or if any other coach in the competition knows, well, let me know. But he's obviously a very good player, so he's been in fantastic form the last couple of weeks. He's obviously kicking plenty of goals, so it's just trying to nullify his influence. So you know, there's a chance someone like Sam Daly goes head to head with him, which I think would be a really good match up for both teams, and something that the people out there at Launceston should look forward to seeing.
That match against the Roos, I guess they overran you early, and guys never really looked like you were in it after that. Were you pretty scathing to your boys afterwards about the lack of competitiveness?
I don't think you can be scathing every week, Tom. I mean, this is still a very, very young group. As I've said, we're only really sort of 12 to 13 months into basically a new club when you lose 95% of your playing list the year before. So, you know, you can't just keep scathing at the guys. You obviously let them know you're not happy with their efforts and the standards that they'd set early in the game. But to be fair to them, after quarter time, they actually had a crack. Unfortunately, our skill execution wasn't good enough. The Roos were up and about. The week before, they missed plenty of easy goals on the weekend. The first quarter, they didn't miss to start with. So straight away, the scoreboard pressure is put on. And then with a young group, it's really hard to respond from that. So, you know, it's just another learning. We've just got to just keep moving forward, keep demanding that the standards of the club are kept really high, and that we will eventually get there. Whether that takes 12 months, 24 months, it will eventually happen. Because as I said, we've basically, with what's happened at our club in the last 5 or 6 years, with the change of name, you know, you lose your identity, then it gets changed back to what it should have been. And then, you know, as I said, you lose 95% of your list. We're starting from scratch basically. So, you know, as a club, we feel we are improving. We've gone from having 12 to 15 guys in the track 15 months ago to having now 85 on our list. We have 8 players in the Devils program, so there is signs that the club is on the right path.
How beneficial is having guys like Daly and Williams around in terms of keeping those younger guys up after a deflating loss like last week?
Yeah, I mean, Nathan McCulloch's another one, Jaden Charlton. I mean, their form has been outstanding all year, so you just try and emphasise to the young group that you should aspire to be as professional in your standards as these guys, because obviously their form on match day is a byproduct of what they do during the week, how they recover, how they train, how they set the standards at training, and the example they set on the field. So we're very lucky we have some outstanding leaders. Having someone like Sam with, you know, his AFL experience and starting with the Giants when they were very young, he can relate to some of the emotions that some of the young guys go through. So you've basically just got to put your arm around them, give them a hug and tell them it's going to take a lot of hard work, but we're here to help you and we're going to eventually get there.
Confidence still pretty strong despite the heavy losses.
Yeah, all young groups, there's always enthusiasm. We put an emphasis on training on Tuesday night to actually have some fun, so we changed the structure around a little bit, and you know, there was a very buoyant mood during our last drill, and there's lots of smiles on the players' faces, a bit of staring, etc., and a few, particularly the older guys. So it was just nice to see everyone walk off the track with a smile on their face, and that's the beauty of coaching such a young group. It can knock you around on game day, but you just know you've got to knuckle down when you get there on the Monday night, and you lead that into Tuesday, and then it leads into tonight. So, yeah, I mean, they're still up and about, the kids.
Biggest challenge of the year so far?
I thought playing North Launceston was a pretty big challenge, so that was probably our biggest challenge to date, but certainly a big challenge going out to KG5. We haven't won out there for what seems to be a very long time, so obviously Glenorchy, a quality team, and the KG5 ground has not been kind to us over the journey.
Would you say you're as ready as you've ever been then for this type of matchup?
Oh, I think we're probably starting to play a little bit better at the moment. So I think the last game we played, we sort of had that Bomber spirit back, where it was certainly hard and aggressive at the ball, and we probably hadn't seen that for the first part of the year. So Yeah, I think the boys are pretty ready at the moment.
How do you think your two teams? How do you think your two teams match up game style wise?
Look, they move the ball really quickly, and so they're hard to shut down, and they seem to find a lot of space, particularly on KG5. So we've got to be, I suppose we've got to be a lot better defensively to be able to shut them down. And obviously we move the ball really quickly by hand from in tight, which probably catches a few teams out. And the more pressure they put on us in tight, the better we seem to be able to handle that. So, I think that they move it really well by foot and get it into space where we're probably a little bit better in tight.
So just shutting them down, did North Lonnie almost provide with a bit of a blueprint on how to do that?
Look, you don't want to get North Launceston after them having a loss, because they come out pretty fired up and a little bit more focused. I think when you win game after game, as they have over the last 5 years, when they have a loss, it really kicks them into gear. So you probably don't want to face them the week after they've had a loss like Glenorchy did. So they're probably up and about, and just watching their game, the intent in the game was a lot better than probably what we've seen the week before.
His form's just pretty outstanding at the moment. Is it the best you've seen him play? And
Who's that? Siggins. Siggins has come back a little bit changed. He's a little bit more relaxed. I suppose not the dream of being drafted isn't closed, but it's not a major focus. He's gone into work. He's engaged. I think everything's just settled down, and he's a bit more relaxed. So we certainly haven't put him under any pressure to perform in the way he probably had himself under that pressure when he first come back, that he needed to dominate. And I think he's just a lot more relaxed and a little bit more comfortable with where he's at in life. So he's actually playing some seriously good football. You're talking about a guy who's 6'5". He's had 42 possessions last game. That's pretty out there. So he's probably in form now that people might even look at him and say, well, maybe he isn't draftable again. So he's been really good.
Obviously, the work you put into him as a coach, you'd like him to hang around Lauderdale for a little while, I'd imagine. But I guess it's hard not to let someone like Sigo go again. I guess if that does present itself.
Yeah. Look, I think what you do, you just support them all in whatever, whether it's on the ground or off the ground. You just sit there and we've got to support them the best we can, and sometimes we don't get it right. So I think we're getting it right with Sigo. Sigo, since he's been back, I don't think he's said 2 words amongst the group. He just comes to training, goes home, trains hard, comes to footy and plays and goes home, and he's just sort of keeping pretty quiet, which is, I think it's working for him. I think the longer he can do that, the better. And teams are challenging him every week. They're trying to upset him, and we haven't seen that happen as it used to. So he's pretty focused on what he wants to do.
You talk about this being your best chance in years to go on and do what you haven't been able to the last couple of years. Is the group grounded and focused enough to not buy into any of that white noise and to keep winning as consistently as it has been?
Well, I don't think we've ever sat on top of the ladder at this stage of the year. I think we're going into round 7 and we're sitting on top of the ladder, so that's probably something a little bit different for the group. I don't think can't remember ever being on top of the ladder in 10 years. So, look, they got a rocket last week at training because they were sort of not where we wanted them to be. They straightened themselves up, so there'll be some checkpoints along the road where we need to pull them in the line, and there's no. We don't go into these games thinking that we're going to win them easily, but we'll go into games confident. But there'll be times where we need to pull them in the line and maybe just give them a reality check from time to time.
Does that feel having the target on your back as opposed to chasing your tail at this stage?
It is the first time we've ever gone into the next part of the season. This is the last round of the last game of the first round, so. At this stage of the year, we're always counting the games, which ones we have to win to make finals, or maybe, sneak into a third position. So we're probably, I suppose we're in that stage now. We know that we can make a top 3 and we can go into the second part of the season confident that we can do that and not chasing our tails.
I think you said a couple of weeks ago, North Lonnie still the flag favourites in your eyes. Do you still reckon that's the case?
Yeah, look, I think one loss certainly doesn't change that in my point of view. You don't build a reputation over 5 years and lose one game and lose the flag favourites. So I certainly think that they will be still flag favourites until something drastically happens. One game's not going to change my mind on how good they are.
Is it, considering the list you got, or what we've been talking about pre-season, those last 3 quarters over the weekend satisfactory?
Oh no, the last 3 quarters definitely weren't. I think I said post-match we just got taught a lesson in work rate and probably a bit in toughness as well, which across the journey you're going to learn those lessons, and sometimes you do have to learn them the hard way. So you've got to try and take the positives and the learnings out of that, and you got to look at it. You got to grow from it, but you got to move on pretty quickly to what's going to be a pretty tough challenge on Saturday night. We want to be better as a footy club than that, and that last 3 quarters, especially the second quarter, definitely isn't reflective of the character and the ability of our group. So, we are really disappointed in that as a playing, coaching group and footy club. So, but the best part about this comp and the best part about footy is 7 days later you get that other crack at it to atone for some sins and try and put it to bed.
Is it frustrating for you as a coach? I guess you see glimpses of what the side's capable of. Obviously, you had that win against Hobart the other week, and then so you have a heavy loss. How frustrating is that as a coach?
Yeah, it's probably more just watching that second quarter from the box, just more helpless because you can't really do anything. We've got our plans in place to combat momentum, and it's one thing that we do have to get better to as a group. And everything we put in place, it just for half an hour, it just didn't work. And but really, what it came down to was work rate. Being tough, and I'm not going to say lack of effort because everyone goes out, everyone's doing their best, everyone's trying, they're busting their tail to win games of footy. So. Yeah, it's frustrating, of course it is. We want to win, we want to compete every week, and when you do have those drop-offs which are out of character for your group, it's hard to watch, and it's that helpless feeling. But like I said, we get a chance to atone for it, which is really good.
It's probably a massive opportunity for you guys to get Clarence while they're not really at their best.
I think they just come off a 73-point win, so I think they're going okay.
One win doesn't make a season.
Oh well, I suppose you'd probably have to talk to Jez about that when he comes up. But I think they've played into a bit of form on the weekend. Cox was up and about. Brady Jones was fantastic through the middle. Their prime movers really got going, but. What I like about Clarence and when you watch them play is I like their forward line. I think it's pretty dynamic. There's some mid-size there who can cause you some headaches, and the way they move the ball into them causes you some trouble. So I probably don't think they're going as bad as people think. I think they got blown out by Glenorchy, but they were competitive with Lauderdale in the game. They played really well against North Lonnie up there, and then they got their first win on the board last week. So we're preparing for a pretty good team in good form with confidence coming down to our place on Saturday night.
Saturday night game, big occasion. You guys will be champing at the bit to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. We enjoy playing those moments. We had that, Good Friday footy, Anzac Day footy. We had a night game on round 1 against North Lonnie, and it's a really big thing for us. Is we want to get our community and our zone clubs engaged in supporting us as well, because we've got to work together through the Huon Valley. This Saturday night with Huonville and Signet, any player, member, supporter who comes to the Twin Ovals and is wearing their club kit gets in for free. So we want to support each other as a zone clubs, and I know that Signet and Huonville are already organised. They'll play their game during the day, and they'll come to the game and support us en masse, which is really great, because it's the only way we're going to move forward if we start working together in that community, because we've got a good zone, we've got a big zone, so so they've got that opportunity, and we want to see them there supporting us to become that that one club through the zone, or the club of choice that if you want to play at the highest level that you can come to. So big occasion for us Saturday night. We hope to have, we've drawn 1,000 people in round one, just under 1,000 people in round two. So for us as a playing group, we've got to put a really good, strong performance on the board so people keep coming back to the footy, which is what we want.
Shaping up as a battle between you and Clarence to secure that potential finals berth a bit later in the season, albeit being so early. But is it a crucial clash in that sort of sense?
Yeah, you can go one of two ways with it. Like, obviously both teams want to win, but if the result doesn't go your way, it's not the end of the world yet. We're both equal. We're sitting outside the 5 on percentage, if you want to look at it like that. If, the team that loses will be one game out of the 5. So, but these games, like, I think as everyone said, there seems to be at the moment a little bit of that class system. Those top 3 and then the bottom 4 seem to be fighting for those last 2 spots in the final. So when you do play each other, it does become crucial. That's probably why, we're so disappointed in our performance last weekend, because those games when we play Launceston, Clarence, North Hobart, they're the ones that, are going to determine that spot. So, big game, and we'll build that up with the playing group. That it's important, firstly, to respond from last week's performance, but to get a game ahead of potentially Clarence and a game closer to Lonnie, who have the bye and don't win this week. At the end of the year, it's all going to stack up.
Coming off a loss like that, I spoke to someone from another club earlier in the week, and in their opinion, your club lacks a game plan, as opposed to North Lonnie's got a clear game plan. Glenorchy's got a clear game plan. They said that watching the Tigers play, they can't see a game plan. Was it back to the drawing board after that loss? And do you feel like you've got a strong enough game plan heading into matches against those tougher sides?
I'd be interested firstly to know who's told you that, but we can probably talk about that off camera. We've got no issues with our structure. Our structure's fine. What we do, the way we move the ball. I think 3 weeks ago we kicked 100 points. For the first time since I've been coaching at the club. So no one was questioning game plan 2 weeks ago. No one was questioning game plan at quarter time when we were 2-3 goals up on Launceston. No one was questioning game plan when we were going toe-to-toe with Lauderdale and Glenorchy in the game. So no concern. We know what we're doing. We know the path we're on, and we know it's the right path. So and people from outside, this is an opinion-based industry. There's plenty of coaches at all footy clubs in the can bar that have never been, are all undefeated, who've never had the stones to put, their self on the line and put themselves out there and lead a club and fight for something that they believe in. So, it's all white noise. Couldn't care less what external people say. We know what we're doing. We're a strong group. We're a tight group, and all that sort of stuff. That's just fuel for us as well. But noise as well. Don't really care about it.
Great. Any changes to mention?
Micah Reynolds, unfortunately, he got injured. He was able to play the game out, had an issue with his toe, so he hasn't done much this week, so we're not going to play him. We'll reward Jacob Lister's had some fantastic form in the Mercury Cup. He kicked 4 goals and was best on last week. He's had a lot of the footy since he's gone back. He played the first couple of senior games, so Jake gets his reward, which is fantastic for him and the group.
From being undefeated into that loss against the Bombers on the weekend, what did you take out of that match?
I didn't look at it like that. I think I said last week, like we would have to go to another notch to win that game, because we hadn't been playing great footy. We were playing early season football, and some elements of it had been good. The way we defended was good, and the way we'd been around the contest had been good, and that had enabled us to get 4 wins. But there was a couple of patches in that game where, around the ball we really dropped off. And when that fell away, the structure around it fell away. So it was a good wake-up call for us all. And just a good reset, for all just to have a look at these things and say, look what happened here. Here's what we need to do. And the guys knew the answers to that. But yeah, I think the thing probably the guys were most disappointed was, we lost Braden Webb and Josh Arnold in quick succession, and then after that, 5 goals on the board really quickly for North Lonnie. When you lose a couple of leaders, it's the time to knuckle down and dig in, and we didn't do that as well as we really needed to, which it's probably a bit of an understatement, and so that was disappointing. But these are the sort of things you want to have this time of year and not later in the year. They're a very good team. You know, they're still, until somebody beats them on an important day in September, they're still the team to beat. And so we'll just lick our wounds and hopefully we'll bounce back as strong as North Lonnie did from their loss the week before.
Just on that, how is the injury list looking overall, and I guess do you have the depth to cover that up against a side like Lauderdale?
Yeah, I mean, the injury list is pretty big, and it's, I mean, I said we've only got a couple of blokes left, over the age of 25 who aren't injured, so I said to them, I hope they're doing everything right. We can't afford to lose any more of our older blokes. But, I mean, the news with Josh Arnold is good. I don't know if you saw that incident, but the way it played out, he was basically on the ground on his side, and the full weight of Dakota Bannister came down, and he's a big dude. Josh said afterwards it felt like his chest had been crushed. The medicos thought initially there was a fracture, and the ambulance was called, so we were pretty concerned. As it turned out, there wasn't a fracture, just a lot of trauma, I guess, to a few joints and areas around there. But he's actually bounced back really quickly. He's be an outside chance to play this week, but I mean the odds are he won't, because it's just, unless he's 100% good to go, we'll just give him that opportunity to recover fully and come back. So that's good news. And Braden Webb has his scan today. His knee was a little bit too swollen to scan it earlier in the week, so he's coming back. So hopefully tomorrow we'll know the news there, and touch wood. I mean, the best case scenario for him is that 4 to 6 week range. So obviously we're hoping it's in that range.
Jay, update on Jay?
Yeah, we'll know after tonight. We've got a few tonight. I think the commentator referred to us as the walking wounded, and it was a little bit like that. But there's probably 3 boys tonight that we'll just see how they go through training and make a call after that.
Bombers really showed their quality by bouncing back from a loss against you guys. A really good opportunity for you guys to do the same against a quality outfit in Lauderdale.
Yeah, it is, and it's good that we come up against a team where we're going to have to play pretty close to our best footy to win, and pretty close to our best footy to really compete. So that's a good test. Test the resolve of the blokes and how quickly we can switch on to the things we didn't get right last week. I'm looking forward to it.
How do you stop a bloke like Sigo racking up 40 odd
touches? It's an interesting one, because 2 weeks ago Hayden Smith was brilliant against Alex Lee, and then Alex really bounced back last week and got the better of Cam Duffy. So they're 3 really good ruckmen. I think Hayden's having a very good year. So the first stage of that is Duff having a big game, making sure he's on. And then you've just got to apply pressure. Like there was 2 patches in that game on the weekend where we just didn't apply pressure to Brad Cox-Goodger, and he made us pay. And it's pretty simple against really good players. If you give them space, they're going to make you pay. And so obviously with Sigo, we've got to be switched on to what he does well and make sure we're there to apply pressure on him.
Who are the 2 that will come in and replace Josh and Pidge?
That's a good story, because we've got Trad Duggan will come in this week, and it's been pretty much 3 years since he's played senior football and had some, all sorts of trouble with osteitis pubis and that sort of thing around the core area. And he's been incredible this pre-season. Like the first 2/3 of pre-season, he couldn't really get out and train, but he didn't miss a session. He was in the gym. He was driving the other blokes in rehab. Now, including the practice games, he's played 8 weeks, and we've sort of been really slow in the way we've built him up and we've managed his body, but he's pulling up great. He's playing exceptional football at development league level, so we can't wait to see him out. I know he's really excited, and he said to me he's been dreaming about this for almost 3 years, so that's going to be good. The other one will probably bring up Bailey Bester, who had a really good second half of the year for us last year. Initially, he was dropping away from TSL level because he'd had twins, but he sort of got to March and he'd had the itch, and he came back to the club. So he's done a few weeks in development league just to get up to speed. So he'll probably come back in, and looking forward to having him in, because he gives us X factor. He's quick, he applies really good pressure, and that's going to be important, because when Lauderdale rebound quickly out of defence, they can really hurt you through the corridor. So that sort of hunt in our forward line is going to be important.
Yes, good chance to go back to back again this week, but like we were just saying before, Tigers do show glimpses at times. So is it a danger game?
Oh, massively. I think you only have to listen to Trent talking that they're going to be up and about this week. that I reckon they'd be fairly disappointed with their result, especially around the contest last week. So there's no doubt that they'll bounce back this week. Trent also touched on it. You know, there's the community clubs are coming up in Huonville and Cygnet, so they're going to be pretty keen to put on a good show. So real 50-50 game. It's at night. It's going to be joy. So we're looking forward to the contest.
Came out like a bit beside possessed last weekend, mate. It's satisfying win.
Yeah, well, I slept a bit better this week. It was a bit of a danger game for us because we, you know, I said in the media that we probably let one slip the week before, and then, you know, we knew that North Hobart were going to come out and, you know, if they had to put pressure on us, we haven't won this season, and then you never know what happens there if they gave momentum. So, look, the first quarter was outstanding. We won the ball at contest, we got it forward, we locked it in, and more importantly, we finished off our work in front of the sticks this week, which was pleasing as well. So a good win last week, but you know it's a different ball game this week.
I suppose Trent did speak about the lack of pressure and hard ball gets from his side after the first quarter. Expecting them just to come out firing.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the strength of their team. Like, you know, we can look at last week's result v Launceston for the Tigers, and we'd go, oh well, gee, they weren't fantastic around the ball, but just look at the names there. They've got some talent in that area of the ground, so they're not going to have two poor weeks in a row. So being a night game, being dewy, that's where the game's going to be won. So we need to make sure that, you know, if they win it, we've got pressure on them and we're able to turn the ball over. But more importantly, we've got to win the ball at the contest more often than what they do on the weekend to allow us to move the ball forward and get field position, because that's going to be pretty vital this weekend, I'd imagine.
How do you shut down a player like Lovell?
Yeah, good question. I spent probably 2 hours just trying to figure out how to shut down Lovell. I think he had 20 disposals and a goal in the first quarter last week, and they had a really good quarter. So we've got some plans in place. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but will it be a direct match-up? Maybe not. It's probably going to be a bit more system-based and how we set up around that. But yeah, look, he's a quality player. And there's going to be times in the game where he's going to get away. And he's going to do those fluky things, great kicks, break away from stoppage, all those types of things. So, yeah, we've got some plans for how do we curb him as an individual, but also how do we curb their stoppage dominance, because they are a good stoppage team.
And for a team with no game plan, they can move the ball very quickly and catch you off guard, get a lot of inside 50s. That's also something that you'll have to clamp down on.
Yeah, they can, and they've got targets inside 50 now. You know, last year they were a little bit over the back type team. Now that can be shut down efficiently if your press is good. You don't allow them inside that, whereas this year they've got a couple of targets in Reardon and Paul as well. So they have got some options there, and they do transition the ball really well. They get good width in the ground, they can change lanes and get the ball to the open side. So they can transition the ball extremely well. You know, we've probably... You know, I slapped them in the face a little bit there to say they've got no game plan. They can play.
Yeah, that wasn't me that said that, by the way.
Oh, okay, yeah. I got him here. Yeah, so we need to understand some of the strengths of their game and close them down, because they've got targets and they've got ability. Sweet.
Changes,
yeah, we've got a few actually. Ethan Jackson, I thought you weren't going to say. Yeah, Ethan Jackson will play his first Devils game for the year, which is a great reward for effort. He's playing pretty dominant for us. Yeah, he's been very good and deserves his opportunity. He missed last week through a bit of a knee, but he gets his opportunity this week. Ryan Bailey's away on the mainland for work, so he won't play either, which means that Wade Wall will have to come up and play. He played last week in the development because he got back from... he was on the mainland as well through work, so he comes back this week. So, yeah, we have Ryan Bailey out and Ethan Jackson, so and Tim Castle obviously retired, so there's 3 changes. We'll figure out who they are tonight. I'm not going to tell you who they are, but one of them is Wade Wall. Yep, the other 2 to be concluded.